You're live. Okay. So, welcome everybody to this afternoon session. So, my name is Cassandra. I'll be the moderator for this session, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all to the Africa STEM Summit. This today, our presenter will be Andrew. Will be presenting to us how to master Laravel authentication and authorization. So, brace yourself to a very educative session, and kindly, if you have any question, feel free to write it in the chat box, and by the end of each presentation, we'll answer your question. Yeah, so welcome, Andrew, and go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. Hi everybody. I am Andrew Nderitu, software developer, Laravel developer, as a matter of fact, and I'm happy to be with you all here in this fine afternoon. I hope that you will get some points, and maybe some of you will actually even try developing something after this. So, with that, I think we can have some fun and learn something new. So, today we'll be covering mastering Laravel authentication and authorization. And I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Andrew Nderitu. Again, I'm a software developer. I'm using my main stack is Laravel and Vue. I'm similarly a STEM advocate and mentor, and also a mentor by Google. So should there be any cases concerning STEM, I am usually on the spot. I like how this STEM ecosystem is growing day by day, and even this convergence here is just by an example of how the STEM ecosystem is just growing minute by minute, day by day. So I'm guessing now we can start. So I don't want to take much of our time. So this is what we'll be covering. I'll take you guys through a brief introduction, then an overview of what Laravel is and authentication and authorization in Laravel. I might point out some few security practices that are considered as best, and also similarly, I also point out some few Laravel security features. So let's go ahead. Laravel, for those who don't know, Laravel is a powerful PHP framework known for its elegant syntax and amazing features. I think it's by far one of the most supported Laravel frameworks in the market. There are a couple of others, but most people tend to prefer Laravel. I've heard some others mention CodeIgniter, Symfony, but Laravel seems to does it best or does it better. What is authentication? Authentication is the process of verifying a user's identity, while authorization determines what a user can access. So think of it like of our friend here on the screen. He's trying to get past it, so but maybe there's a like a handshake which he has to complete or make sure that oh indeed this guy is black and that is he has funk. So blackness for funk got sold. So that's just a funny example of authentication and authorization. There are many other use cases in the market, but this is just but a tip of what we'll be covering. So briefly, going over Laravel. Laravel has been actually widely used, and mentioning but a few real-world use cases, we find most e-commerce platforms are built on Laravel, and also a lot of fintech applications. Laravel is mostly a backend framework. However, it also can be encompassed or can be added onto by other front-end frameworks, e.g. Vue, Bootstrap, React, and many others. So, security best practices in Laravel. Um, We'll discuss a few threats like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and CSRF attacks, while also highlighting the potential risks and my mitigation strategies. I'll be covering this mostly at the end of the session after we've gone through the technical coding part, as well as as well as most of that. So I believe, Cassandra, we can go ahead and start getting technical. So let's open our code editor here. So I guess we can start with how how to first of all set up Laravel, so that now then we can get to how we'll set up our authentication and the rest shall follow. So setting up Laravel. There are a few prerequisites before having a Laravel project running in a system. Case being having Composer installed, XAMPP or LAMP, depending on your operating system. Personally, I'm using Ubuntu Linux. Also, will be required to have PHP 7 or higher, but preferably PHP 8. NPM version 9 or higher, Node version 20, and yes, that's basically most of all the ingredients. Getting started with Laravel app, you can say composer, create project, create project, Laravel, Laravel. We can call our project Lara. Oh, yeah, something like that. So we wait as we install all the composer repositories and package dependencies required for this Laravel project. And the thing about Laravel that makes it actually amazing is um, how simple or how compact it has been made, so that you can find everything, and even adding more things onto it becomes simpler. So let's open our new project. Awesome. So we are in our project file now, and we can get started with setting up our Laravel project. So in PHP Laravel, we have a env file. By default, nowadays, since Laravel upgraded to Laravel 11, they changed the env settings to use SQLite. However, in our case, we'll be using SQL, given that I have installed them. So that will be preferably what we'll be using
Andrew,
for this
I'm
session.
sorry, Andrew, can
Yes.
I interrupt kindly? Your screen is a bit. Can you zoom in so that we can be able to view your screen? Because we can't
Oh,
see
okay.
clearly.
Sorry. Um, mm, mm. Hope you can see my screen now. Enough.
Yes, it's better. We can see now. Thank you.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. Since Laravel 11, we find that we use Laravel defaults database connection to SQLite. However, in our case, we'll be using SQL for this session. So go to MySQL database name. Let's call it Laravel. Just as a project. And yes, that's pretty much everything. Similarly, we can set up our app URL to 127. Um, yeah, should be correct. What else? Yeah, that should be good. So back to starting the Laravel app. Let's get some stuff. We have a sub application. Um, no databases installed yet, so let's go ahead and migrate our databases. Database Laravel does not exist, created yet, and migration, so this error should be gone. Okay, so this is our welcome Laravel page. So for this session, I'll be demoing using Laravel Bootstrap auth. And I'll also mention Laravel Breeze, which is another authentication packaging or scaffolding by Laravel. And then if we'll be having other questions, you can ask. You can mention them in the chat. I'll answer them. But I'll answer them after the session. So, straight to installing Bootstrap, Composer Bootstrap. Before we install Bootstrap auth requires Laravel user interface. That is Laravel UI. So for our project, we'll be required to install Laravel UI. That is installed. Then now we can add our authentication scaffolding. So as you can see, we installed Laravel UI. So now we can successfully use the @UI command. And now with Bootstrap, the auth tag refers to, or rather, it lets us install the authentication scaffolding for this project. Controller file exists. Yes, authentication scaffolding successful and Bootstrap scaffolding successful. Before we started the session, I mentioned that we are required to have both Node and NPM that are much higher. That is Node version 9. Yeah, NPM version 9 and Node version 20. So I'll switch to Node version 20. Yes, Node version 20 and NPM version 10. Then now we can successfully install all the authentication scaffolding that is required, or rather, the dependencies that are required for this. Also mentioning, this is actually very crucial when installing any npm dependencies, especially in Laravel projects. This is because should your node manager be depreciated, or a lower version, you may encounter a lot of errors in that parts of the dependencies may not be installed, and thus we won't be able to actually use the required dependencies that we want to install. So kindly ensure that each time you want to use npm and npm run dev, you make sure that your npm or your npm instance is up to date. Back to our welcome page, we now have our login and register pages. Awesome. So now to the good part, the authorization authentication. We will be using attributes and accessors and mutators so that you can be able to demo, or rather be able to understand how we will be able to um, enforce our authentication. Like, so what are attribute classes in Laravel? These are custom attributes are we will define custom attributes and accessors that we will be using to handle this authentication. So I think I'll best explain it by showing Laravel is an MVC framework, so we will be able to access our user model. Um, yeah. So to simply put, what you are going to be doing is that we have this use case scenario where we have a client and a trainer. So we want the clients to be able to only access their client pages. Similarly, the trainer to only be able to access the trainer page. No user should be able to interfere with the other one's page, or rather be able to access what the other user is able to access. So in this, we will be using attribute. So we will add an attribute to each user. That is in our case, a user type, and then we will set a function to check if this user has this attribute. Then we will redirect them to this page. If not, we will redirect them to this other page. So getting straight up to Wix, let's add first our migration. We'll add the column to our migration file. Uh, to this, awesome. So currently in our users table, we only have these columns: the ID, name, email, email verified at, the password column, remember token, and timestamps. So now, for us to be able to use the attributes in this user model, we have to add that to the users. So we say table string to be a tiny integer, because it will be an integer. So we will assign the client or the trainer a 1 or a 0. so that we will be able to differentiate which user uses which. Down to which. So now we have to actually define the attribute in our user model so that the function can be able to determine which user has this attribute. So down to creating our attribute function. So go to the function, type type attribute. Amazing. So we will return this new attribute. Put a column there. So we have to get attributes function. So we have to associate that integer, that is the value, or rather our one or our zero. We'll have to associate it with the client and trainer based on the value that we have. So yeah, that's our attribute logic that we added to the user model. Now down to creating our various view pages so that you can be able to distinguish this page is for the trainers and this page is for the clients and this other page is the default page. Back to our Laravel app. This is our default login page using Bootstrap. So we will first of all register as a dummy user. I can use my default name and password. Awesome. So this is our default login page, dashboard page after logging in. So here we have not yet actually implemented the attribute logic, not until we have to run our migrations and um, check now and create our other view so that now we can check if this user is actually a trainer or this user is actually a client. So let's log out, back to our code. We create our client file, PHP, and our trainer file, that is the plate.php. We'll have to actually use the authentication layout so that we can determine if this user has been logged in. So we'll just copy the content from the homepage, the first default page. For the trainer blade, this is a trainers page. Similarly to the client page, is is clients clients page. So kindly note the difference. In our clients page, we have defined that this is a clients page, and in our trainer page, we have this is a trainer in the trainers page. To be able to access these pages, similarly, we still have to update our routes page so that can be able to access our views. Syntax, syntax. route get we define client page, get URL client, return view client. So by writing this or by actually this by actually writing this, we are saying that we want to return the view which is a client. Similarly, we return the same for trainer. By the color with indentation. Awesome. As you can note, I've defined middleware out. I'll come back to this much later when we discuss the best security practices. Having defined our routes, what else is remaining? We have not yet added um, the user column type, and we can verify this by going to our database, Laravel, have users. Yeah, so you can see we don't have any type. We don't have any type column. Back to this. So what have we done? In this code or in this migration, we define that the type column should be defaulted to zero. So by defaulting this to zero means that let's say we want the client to be the default zero. That means remember how programmers usually count from zero. We don't count from one. So this is zero and one. If we add another let's say another user type, like let's say admin, we'll be giving him user type maybe three up two user type two number two. So let's run a migration. Great. Let's check status not yet run, and go ahead and run, and it's done. So we have our new column type that is defaulted to zero. So by default, when a user registers, or by default, when a user creates an account, that is a client will be given the user type zero. For trainers, what we'll be doing is that we will be actually saving the data, or rather, we'll be having an administrator who will be adding the trainers, because a trainer, it won't make sense for a trainer to just come to like a website or maybe a web portal and then try to register themselves. So we'll be defining, since we do not have an admin, and now we'll be mimicking our admin. So Laravel has a feature called seeders, and just as the name is, database seeder. What do we do? We are seeding, like we want to add, like by adding seeds, like we want to plant. So let's go ahead and make our seeder. We'll call it user seeder. Sorry, seed to the seeder. Uh-huh. Awesome. In our user seeder, we'll be defining our first trainer, the trainer that we are saying that we'll be adding by default. So we'll be using elephant methods to write this query to insert our user into the database. So in the database, table users, insert this data with the name, email, the at gmail.com. You can just read as trainer dot name, email, password. Encrypt, we have to encrypt our password so that we'll ensure that it's not plainly stored in the database. Another security feature that I'll be covering at the end of the session while we discuss one of the best practices. Yeah, that will be good. Then we have our type 1 because in our user model, we define the trainer as the second item. No, sorry. So 0 and 1. Back to our user seeder, name in password, going to find database. Our database method. So we will be getting errors. Okay. Amazing. What else remains that you can be able to test? So we have our data, we have our added column. Yeah, back to our login authentication. So we want it to be or we want to authenticate such that only the trainer, or rather, as I said before, only the trainer or only the client can access their respective pages. Down to it, we'll create a function to check if we function to make the correct that I be going. So if the authenticated user type is equal to 1, what do you do? Return trainer. Return the trainer page. Return the trainer page if the trainer type or the authenticated user type is equal to 1. We return the view for trainer, or else we return to the client page. Back to our migration so that now we can actually test that we are able to actually authenticate a trainer or a client to their respective pages. So what we'll do is actually migrate, upgrade, and add the trainer data to the database by seeding our user seeder. Let's call our user seeder class. Awesome. So by default, when you run JPX and migrate fresh seed, or rather you want to seed our databases, this is the first file that will be called the database seed. Unless now we have to define in case the last section of the seeding command, we have to actually define the tag. But in our case, since we are just actually seeding the whole database, and now the first file that will be called is the database seeder. And in the database seeder, we will call the user seeder. So just migrate a fresh and then seed. So by migration approach, we will drop all the tables and then run them again so that we can ensure that we have a clean slate. And similarly, we added our default user to the database. So as you can see, my first field that I signed up with is already being erased or already been dropped. And now we have trainer George, who is our default user, and type 1. So now test let's test this, see if it actually works. First create another client. Let's call the client joy@gmail.com. Create new joy credentials. Awesome. So we haven't been redirected yet. So there is an issue in the code. Let's see. Where is our issue? Must be in our login controller. Yes, must be this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That we string of user type is not equal to 1. Yeah. Return string client. Or if not, we can say, send them to the homepage. I hope that will actually work. Let's check our web. Mhm. Yeah, we should be good. Despite just training with the yeah, the trainers pages actually work. I think adding the string was actually the error. Yeah, so we are in the trainer page. Trainer George has logged into the trainer page. So let's try logging back as George. Awesome. Yeah. Guess that has shown us how we are able to authenticate our users. So we can try and actually add another user to our database and see if they'll be redirected to the homepage. We'll give that user another another user type. So let's go back to our user feeder. So by default, if one user registers, they'll be given the type 0 as we defined in our application file. Let's add another. Let's add another user. Call him administrator or staff. Email staff gmail.com. We can have a password as staff at 2024. Right? And we're gonna type 3. What else? Still haven't error of code. Oh yeah, we haven't closed our square bracket. Awesome. So we actually already have our trainer. So we can comment that out so that we don't create another trainer, or rather we can just redo our database afresh again. Huh. Back to trainer results. Yeah, trainer page. Now let's try logging in as staff. Staff at 2024. Okay. Staff was redirected to the client's page. Yeah. Why so? Because we didn't define if else, or rather if the other user has identificated with the other will be related to a client page. So else similar code as before. However, now we do specifying this to our client. So if the client is zero, then uh, client. If we can cut it off at that. Yeah, hopefully. Let's log out. Logging back again. At 2024. Login. Yeah. So since the staff hasn't been defined to the staff doesn't have the user type one, doesn't have the user type zero, he'll be redirected to the home page as we define here. So if other user type is one, as we have seen the trainer, and similarly for the client, if none of these are met, then the authenticated user will be returned to the home page. And yes, that's that concerning attributes. Before I continue, unless anyone has a question on that before we go on. None yet. Okay, if you have any other questions, so just drop them in the chat. So I mentioned that we'll be going through Laravel Bootstrap auth. So now I'll also mention Bootstrap Laravel Breeze, which is another authentication scaffolding by Laravel. Amazing. So what we'll do is that we'll create a Git repo so that we can save all of this into one branch, and then we can have the other, or rather, you can just create another Laravel project to showcase um, our Breeze application. So as our Breeze application is installed, I'll quickly go through what we implemented in our Laravel Bootstrap auth. Um, in our login controller, we actually defined a method to redirect um, the user that is currently logging in into an application based on their type, on the type column in the database. So this type column is based on the user attribute. The user attribute that we defined in the user model here. In the in the route file, similarly, we were able to actually define middleware. So what is middleware? Middleware is Laravel. In simple terms, it's a Laravel gate package. Like we see how at various companies and organizations, we usually have um, officers at the gates, and officers will allow only certain people to enter. So middleware will actually now middleware is actually acting like a security guard. So now when we define auth, we the auth middleware only applies to authenticating our users. Should we come up with another middleware to, let's say, um, authenticate only trainers, then we call it only trainers, or maybe payments, so that we can actually see if this client actually paid for their session. So we will create another route, and then we'll create another middleware, a custom middleware that will be only detailed for I think our call it sorry, so yes. So on to our new Laravel app, where I'll be demoing the new Laravel Breeze. I'll be going through Laravel Breeze briefly. Mm, so let's open a file. Awesome. So again, similar use case or similar installation for Laravel Breeze as we did in the Bootstrap work. We change the EMV, we change and similarly configure our database connections. Amazing. So PHP is so let's first kill the add-on so that we don't run in concurrency. Kill the process. Open on your Laravel Breeze. So we get similar errors before. Let's migrate. Uh, yeah, and it's one. Breathe. Now we create a new Laravel database. Create it. It should be good. Yeah. So we don't have the login and register as before for the Bootstrap auth. Now we'll be briefly installing Laravel Breeze. Laravel Breeze is similarly another package by Laravel, so we have to install it by Composer. Yeah. For Laravel Breeze. Similarly, once again, to use Breeze, just as we used Laravel Dry, after installing Complete Artisan Breeze, install. In our case, we will be using it um, we can do this with, let's check view, and go back. Yes, yes. So, among the options that we had here, so Laravel Breeze is a much scalable, rather much lightweight authentication scaffolding by Laravel that actually allows us to use it with a fronted framework of our choice. So we in this case decided to use it with Vue. Um, installing. Yeah. So we started using it with Vue for our use case, so that can just actually demo it for this purpose. Let's wait for it to complete. It's happening. Lots and lots of node dependencies. Building and awesome. We have our Braze scaffolding installed successfully with our view as view as our front-end framework. If we go to our resources.js, we'll find all our pages in view, such as the login, register. But when you go to views, you won't find any blade files because we specifically chose or rather selected to use the view with inertia for our content. So let's go ahead and refresh. We'll have again our login. And as you can see, there's a difference with our first login page and this one. So you can go ahead and log in. No, not yet. We're gonna have users. Let's create user ID and we at Gmail. Let's use Andrew Gmail. Password. Again. Hopefully, yeah. So as you can see, the user interface is actually even much better. It's actually simpler. And what makes Breeze actually much better is that it allows the users to actually update their account information without even asking. It already comes installed by default. So now we can actually update our data. And that's it's actually that simple. Actually update our password and everything. Actually similarly delete our account. So we can similarly actually use the attributes for this side. Having installed Braze for our authentication doesn't mean that we actually have the attributes settings actually installed. We actually have to run it again. But in our case, since we had already demoed it in the first place, we won't be doing that. So I think that marks the end of my demo. Now on to questions, if there are any. If there are none, we can go back to discussing the best security features that we can, or rather, the best set security features or measures that we can use when developing our Laravel application. Any questions in the chat? Hmm. Mm, Any questions? Any questions? Not yet. Okay. So now, on to discussing the features that we actually implemented, or rather, features that we concern, or rather, we consider the best measures as far as security is concerned. We have Laravel Sanctum, we have let me just open and look out. Mm, mhm. We have Sanctum, we have middleware, yep, difference. And last but not least, we also have um, element model, another eloquent query. Awesome. So down to Sanctum. In Laravel Sanctum, what is Sanctum used for? So Sanctum is actually used for authentication in Laravel SPAs, single page applications. It's actually token based and mostly used for mobile um, web API based applications. Let's say we have a couple of APIs in our web file that we actually need to be accessed by our mobile app. Or rather, we have APIs that are installed in our web app that still need to be accessed in our mobile app. So how can we make sure that they are secure using Sanctum? Sanctum allows each user to generate their own specific and multiple API tokens for their account. This way, we are able to define, or rather, we are able to ensure that this, or we are able to ensure that the API or everything concerning the API and even the data is secure. So today, let me see if we can see. among the dependencies. Yeah, it is. So by default, when you install Laravel application, Laravel sometimes is there by default. We can still use it, however we haven't, but it's still there and can still be used. Mm, sorry, excuse me. On to middleware. Hope there are no other questions yet. On to middleware. I explained before how middleware how they can be applied. So, like a middleware is basically acting like a bridge between request and reaction. So, as I mentioned before, if we decide to actually run our Laravel project and actually remove application from those routes, we'll be able to see that the middleware wasn't applied. Middleware manifest was not found, was not returned and clearly on dev, so that you can scaffold all the node dependencies. And we are back to our bootstrap scaffolding. Um, we should go ahead and actually log in as a client. It's client. Yeah, I think it's client. Hmm. I think it is wow. Okay, let's create another letter. Can use Godzilla as our user. Maybe yeah, Godzilla. So if we try to access the client page, we can access the client page. Let's try accessing the client page. The, the users in our database tab, only the tab. User type string, user type zero. So let's try and yes, the client page when we are not logged in will be redirected to the login page. So let's modify our web file to see if we can be able to access the client page without being redirected back to the login page. Let's remove the middle class. Similarly, in our client page, yeah, should be good for client. We are able to access our client page. And why? Because we removed the middleware from our web file. So now the gates that was preventing us from seeing this data has now been opened because we removed the middleware uh, in the web file. And as you can see, we can be able to view the login register because having removed the identification from this route, the user can be able to access this. However, The user is also prompted to log in and register. This navigation bar is only visible to users who have not been logged in. We can test this by trying to access the trainer page. No access. Homepage, no access. So if we go back and try to access our current page and undo our middleware changes, we are logged out, like logged out immediately. So that's the best case scenario for middleware authentication. Any questions yet? Yeah, down to CSRF tokens. So ever thought of how when you enter a bus, like there are different bus services that once you pay, you're given like a sort of some sort of ticket. These tickets that are these prove that you have paid for the bus service. Similarly, in Laravel, let's say we want to send data that's in a form. How do we do this? And we want to send data that is in a form and actually ensure that this data was actually sent by someone who's actually authenticated by using CSRF token. I don't think we have any form file in our form in our grade file. Yes, the login and register view files. So we have CSRF declared here. So we want to send that this name and this email together with the password that this unknown user wants to register or this unknown user wants to post. And we actually want to ensure that all this data is authenticated while we send we add the CSS. This is actually easily applied in most like almost all Laravel form applications. Like should you create a form and fail to add a CSS token, you'll be getting funny errors concerning token mismatch and a bunch of other errors that should be also concerned as we continue discussing how to mitigate these errors. And lastly, we go to elephant queries. Um, there is a difference between a Laravel, how we write a normal query and how we write an elephant query. And the best example that we can use for this is our CEDA. We have some code to this. I can show you how it's different. Hmm, let's see. Let me add what it is. simply just have to create our own raw query and actually an eloquent query to be able to differentiate this. Hmm. Okay, let's see. In our let's create another controller. Sorry, make controller um trainers controller. Syntax one second. Amazing. So let's go ahead and actually create our eloquent and raw code. So let's declare users variable. We can say user, yeah, user model. Or info log all that in log all the users. Let's include users, models, user, and also is log. So in our log file, so let's return the new trainer once we will be able to display all the users once we call this controller in our dot file. Comment this out. Out get trainer for the trainers class. Uh, index file trainer counter space and we'll give it a name. So to go to the trainers view, we'll have to go to the trainers controller in the index method and we give that shout name trainers. Similarly, we have to add the middle to ensure that it is secure. Uh, Looking back at the trainer, go back to our log file You know, users have been blocked because we haven't called our payment controller. Use like pass down to our trainer model, trainer controller. Yes, no, speak something, continue. Think that should be good. The should be defined pretty well. There's no issue. Yeah, let's refresh our routes. Login with trainer, trainer, no, trainer model. Yeah, successfully logged into our trainer page. And with that, we should have our user details in the log file. With that, so here we have all our users. Staff, all our staff here. So that is written using Eloquent. So now let's try and write this the row. So through writing eloquent queries, we are able to ensure that one, the code is properly sanitized. So at least we are able to ensure that the data that is being received or the data we are trying to get is actually clean, and we are able to access it as we are supposed to, rather than actually trying to get all or a bunch of trying to get a bunch of other unrelated columns that we need. Name, let's add to the log file and refresh. So now our log file contains only the selected columns that we want. So now eloquent ones or eloquent queries are much easier and they usually mitigate the risk of issues like injections or other one of the code scripting errors or issues that we were discussing before. With that, I don't think there's actually more to discuss unless there are questions in the chat. No questions? No questions? Yeah. Mhm. So then I think we can conclude and actually conclude our today's session concerning authentication and authorization in Laravel. Unless we have questions that need answering. Thank you. Cassandra, there being other or rather no questions. I think we can actually conclude today. Awesome. So thank you all for listening, and I hope that you learned anything new or interesting. If you have any questions regarding this, you can actually reach out to me via LinkedIn concerning this. My LinkedIn profile link is actually in the description below. So I hope you guys had fun, and I hope to see you next time as we actually delve deeper into using that. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the session and for engaging. We've come to the end end of the session. So the speaker link is in the chat section or in the description of this video. Go ahead and follow him on LinkedIn, interact with him, network with him, and receive inspiration for this track. So thank you. Have a nice evening. See you tomorrow. For those who are going to meet physically, see you tomorrow. And for those who are going to meet online, there's no problem. You'll still have a session going. Take care of yourself and have a nice